Peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. If I can't have the girl I love, I don't want none at all. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I know. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound for Shady Grove.
You're hearing the sounds of Max Henry's video, 5 Years Training. There was something so striking about such a calm and understated piece of music accompanied with really strong movement. I feel like at that time there weren't many people moving in the way that Max was. He was starting to incorporate weight training into his videos, and you could see that. He had a very similar style to Callum Powell, but from America. His legs seemed strong, he looked like he could take impact very well and looked like he was in a lot of control most of the time. So for me this really stood out, and the song which you're hearing now really got stuck in our heads. Me and my friend David, we'd have this song stuck in our heads for weeks. So for me this one is a classic.
I wish I had a needle and thread, fine as I could sew. I'd sew that pretty girl to my side, down the road I'd go. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I know. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound for Shady Grove.
My guest today is Pat Carbajal, who, like me, has been really inspired by Max Henry and has had the fortune to train with him. I always find conversations about the American parkour scene interesting, and this one is no exception. So strap in, lock in. This is episode 28 with Pat Carbajal. One of my first questions is about questions, and I noticed in your Instagram bio you have a quote that says, "Live the questions." Why did you pick that quote, and what does that mean for you?
So I found that quote, it was like the beginning of quarantine. So a year ago, I would say, around a year ago. Quarantine and the pandemic were starting. The gym that I had just worked at for 3 years, shut down totally. And that was kind of where I liked to have saw like more years of my life, but things kind of happened how they did. And yeah, just like lots of questions around that time of like, what am I doing, I guess, with my life? Because, I didn't really get into this, but I moved to Philadelphia to pursue parkour more seriously in terms of just coaching and somewhat, I guess, like athleticism. That the whole gym kind of shut down. So it's like, what do I, it's my responsibility now to like steer where I go, I guess, right? It's like, it's not up to the gym, it's me. So lots of uncertainty. And I found that quote by the poet Rainer Maria Rilke. And there's a lot more to it, but essentially it like comes down to like when you ask a question, it takes a bit of time for that answer to kind of happen, right? Like why, say if I had a question of like, why did the gym shut down, right? Like, why did it happen? Like, it's hard to answer, but what the answer I've started to see is that, I now have clients that I work with and I coach privately from that gym that I live off of now, or at least that I have extra income off of, which is pretty sweet on top of working at the school. And like, that's awesome. And these are like relationships with these families and these kids that I'm like, that I have, and I'm teaching them parkour, which is like an awesome thing to do. And yeah, that's kind of where that quote comes from, just because like there's also a book that I was reading too, called, I mentioned it in the group, but Transcend by Scott Barry Kaufman. And I specifically wanted to get to like the purpose piece in that book. Because I, at least in this piece of my life, I'm trying to figure out like what my, I guess, like purpose in life would be, what I'm most useful for, what I would, what problems I would want to see solved in the world. And lately it's been the realization of like a teacher, on some level, whether it's in the school that I work at, or in more specifically in like behavior, being like a behavioral analyst, I believe is the like technical career definition. And just like like why, like what for me specifically, like why parkour, right? Why, and right now what I'm super into like is juggling. Like why do I love juggling now? Like why do I love teaching? Like what do all those point to, and like what can I do with all of that? Huge tangent we just went on, but like that's kind of where that's where that quote comes from, because like so many things of like it almost like removes some of the anxiety. I think that's why I enjoy it. It almost takes some of the anxiety off of me, where it's like I don't have to answer these questions right now. I just ask them.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just like, boom, like next day, what do I got to do? Oh, cool. That was the answer to that question that one day. Sweet. Now I'm just going to like keep chugging along. So that's kind of where that quote came from. And the author, the poet itself, lovely poems to read.
So. What was the name of the poet again?
Rainer Maria Rilke.
Nice. Is she an American poet?
And I believe it's German or Russian. I'm not sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. And I think on that point, I find questions are something that are very important to me now, particularly with doing this. That is my purpose here, is to ask you questions and to glean information and treasure from your mind. And that's kind of why I'm motivated to do these podcasts. And questions for me are questions bring about a focus. If you're struggling to focus, then you should question something. So and as soon as you ask a question, what am I looking at? What am I hearing? What can I feel? How do I feel? It immediately shifts your focus.
And like the clarity of the question really helps too, because it's like you can ask like a bland question, but it's like asking like an honest question that like you're kind of like almost afraid to either ask yourself, or like say if you're asking someone, right? It's like that's usually when the best kind of conversation starts to like unfold. Is like the right questions that you can like look for. Yeah.
I think the most common question is how are you? And yet is one of the deepest questions that we have. It's difficult to. It's easy to say, but it's difficult to answer honestly. Something I've been trying to do, just generally over the last few years, has been to have the courage and effort to just say actually how I'm feeling, even if it's just a small step in the right direction. So if I'm feeling terrible, and someone asks me how I am, I could say like, yeah, not so good today, and it's just a small step in that direction of like honesty. Yeah.
But yeah, great quote. And it's a whole year later, and I still don't have the answers to a lot of those questions, but I've got newer questions that I'm like doing now. And like I said, like with the behavior stuff, I think, I don't know. I was like, so I'm going to ask, so how many years of parkour have you been training, Sam? Like how long have you been doing it for?
So this is my 13th year, I think.
13th.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm at year 8, I believe, 8 to 9, of like what I consider like focus training, of like, being smart and like finding fun challenges and like all of that stuff. Why do you think you started parkour? Why do you think it, like, you wanted to do it? Why did you, like, get drawn into it? Why?
I think it sounds very bland, but it just looked so cool. As in, I've always enjoyed seeing the movement of superheroes and fictional characters within the realms of fantasy, but then actually seeing something fantastical in real life. So, for example, seeing Sebastian Foucan gunning it, you know, in Casino Royale, and suddenly that's something that's real and palpable. I was like, wow, I didn't realize people could move like that. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So I think a very bland answer would be, it looks cool, but maybe deeper than that is that it looks almost like fiction.
Yeah.
And then, wait, does that mean that I can change my body and how I move, and then I can become something that I didn't realize I could be? Like, that kind of is how it sits with me, I think.
Yeah. And with me, it was like the exact same thing. And at the time of where I just found it, because I'm 25 now, I discovered it. I knew about it when I was like 16, but when I started to put more focus on it and like kind of fell in love with it was like when I was 18, and I was just starting college, and I wasn't really like going. I wasn't in college for the major that I wanted to be in for, or at least I felt like I wasn't. I felt like I was being like pressured to be in school, but it was, you know, like it may have been from my parents, but like it might have been just self-imposed pressure that I thought everyone was putting on me, that I had to go and get this major and do this thing. And yeah, like parkour for me, like, was like, it showed me like what I could be, right? And it's like, once I saw that, then it was like, here are the skills, you know, pick up these skills, because after high school I always felt like I was conditioned really well, and I picked up all of the skills really, really quickly, and I think that's why I latched onto it so quickly and had so much fun with it. Yeah, it was like a physical, tangible way that I felt like I could start to do things that I wanted to do, and like start to, like, I guess at the time too, I felt like I didn't have like, I had my personality, but there was like more things I wanted to express and show, and I couldn't. And parkour just like was the first like punch out of like, this is who I want to be, or this is who I like want to be for right now. And then like I would assume that's exactly why like I picked up juggling as quickly as I may have done also, and like have as much fun with it as I do now, and like see a whole bunch of cool connections with parkour as like them both being interesting disciplines in the way that they can express creativity, but like the risk obviously compared to each one is a bit different. One's like definitely more like performative, and the, you know, parkour definitely much more physical, but like, you know, can teach a lot of cool different ways, similar ways of like, you know, connecting skills and like transitioning between like this, you know, pattern and that pattern. And
do you teach juggling as well then?
I have actually started to incorporate it in my classes that I teach, like on Wednesdays. I do it as like a break in between the 3 different moves that we do,
Nice.
which seems to be well received. I'm also starting a juggling club at the school that I work at, which is pretty exciting. As like a fun little, you know, thing, extra thing I can do, if that shows how much I seem to love juggling.
So why do you love juggling? And for listeners, Pat is a very good juggler. I've been following some of your stuff, and the variety and the complexity it's definitely up there. I've not really seen a lot of jugglers in that level. So yeah, why do you love it? Like, what's it about?
So I asked myself that same question in conjunction with parkour, and I think with juggling, like, I don't know, like the same, you know, like everyone is I was gonna get really cheesy for a second, but like everyone's a juggler, right? Everyone's a juggler in some way. Like everyone's juggling a bunch of different things, you could say, in their lives. And I find it I don't know. I think it's really fun, but also it looks cool to me to kind of like embody that, like in like with like a physical discipline, like being able to like keep up all these things at once. Because as I would hope you have you could see as an adult, like there's a lot of things that we gotta keep track of and like maintain and like throw up, and then make sure we like don't drop like this off too much, or this habit, and like make sure this doesn't like spiral out of control. And it's like everyone's doing that, and I don't know, I think the physical look of it looks cool to me, and it is very fun physically and engaging. I feel. I also like the idea the same way. So when you train parkour outside, and you're getting ready to like I don't know hit like a running pre, and somebody walking by looks at you, and their initial thought is like he's gonna like either they've seen you've done it and they think like he's gonna mess up, or he doesn't know what he's doing, or he might be like reckless, and then just like flawlessly like landing it and executing it right. I don't know, I like that ability to like make something very like complicated and like complex look kind of effortless. And I think that somewhat translates over to parkour, where it's like here's this like complex, complicated movement map or whatever, and like executing it effortlessly. I'd like to think it's my way of embodying how I would like to just move on with like life in general. I think as like I don't know, like I don't want to be like there's a level of predictability that I want, but also like I also don't want to be predictable, I guess, if that makes sense. And I don't know, looking back on it now, to me, juggling is like a nice like extension of just practices that I've picked up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling.
Yeah, I like the idea of making complicated things feel and look easy. I think there's.
I like the sensitivity, I guess, I don't know, like yeah, I don't know, it's like
the tactileness.
The tactileness, and like the sounds, I guess the same way I like parkour, right? The tactile feeling of like jumping and landing. With juggling, it's like now that's the hands and like the sounds, and I assume it definitely calms me down in a sense, I would think too, whenever I do, like I've noticed that if I'm anxious or upset, what does tend to calm me down is just like starting to juggle. In the same way, I guess, in back in my when I first started doing parkour, it was the same way. I like to, if I was upset or frustrated, like going out and just moving definitely helped clear my head.
Yeah, I think on a similar note, I've started to kind of tune into the sounds of parkour a little bit more recently. So for example, I've been doing quite a lot of Tic Tacs, and someone was asking me the other day, a friend of mine called Adam Dorr, shout out to him. He was asking me about some tips with Tic Tacs. And something that is hard to explain, but something that helps me, is actually the sound of the movement. So a good Tic Tac has a certain rhythm to it because of the way that you're accelerating towards the wall, the way you take off the floor, the way you contact the wall, and the angle you're on and everything. And it's interesting to me that when Tic Tacs are very fast, and like I have a slight moment of recognition that it's going well when I hear the sounds kind of in a certain pattern,
like paced right. It's like it's like a hit and a go. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and there's definitely a difference between kind of jumping at the wall and kicking, and like stretching to the wall and kicking, and these sort of different delineations of how you do the Tic Tac. But it's something that I'm thinking more of, and just how rhythmic like our movement is, and how, you know, when you listen to it back, it's like, wow, you're making the exact same sounds every single time in the same timings, you know, like. And I love like the raw sounds of it all, man. It's great. But yeah. So for juggling, do you see some crossovers with the actual kind of hand-eye coordination aspect of juggling and parkour? Are there any crossovers for you there?
I would like to think that if someone wants to get really good at like rail grabbing or just like confidence with their hands there, I think juggling could be a good like extra thing to do. For me personally, I've always somewhat had confidence, just like, or not somewhat, you know, like average confidence with grabbing rails and Kong rails.
Yeah. Because I noticed that your eye movement is something you've spoken about a little bit with your juggling. So do you put a certain amount of effort into your, awareness into your eye movement when you're juggling?
I've noticed when it's like a regular standard pattern or like a much bigger pattern, it's like slightly below the top of it, but I'm not looking in the middle. It's kind of like I'm looking at the whole entire thing or trying to get like a wider view of the whole entire thing. And then with like more complex patterns where I have to like move, it really is just like where, like if the ball's flying by here, then I know that like, or at least if it's a pattern I've done before, I know that it's going to like end up a few seconds like over here. Therefore my hand just has to like move up and then grab it. So it's like moving my head so that I can see at least the ball somewhat in my peripheral vision, or like know where it's traveling, to then like get a hand ready back over there after I've mapped that throw a bunch of times. And like I know kind of where I'm going to send it, then my hand kind of just like goes there and grabs it. It's pretty cool. It like looks like, it's like, how, you weren't even looking, but like I saw it go that way, so I know that it's going to end up like there, or I know it's like, you know, hand left, hand right, something like that.
This is something I've noticed with teaching flow is encouraging eye movement from obstacle to obstacle, because if your eyes aren't focused on the next thing, you can't really progress. So what I try and teach with some of my private students is like, when you've moved and got comfortable with one obstacle, you need to be already transitioning, you know, and that's bodily, you know, your hands or your feet need to be moving towards it, but also your eyes need to be just darting over there as soon as you can, because then you can focus, like where your eyes. I remember when I used to play bass guitar, my teacher would say, you know, your eyes need to go somewhere and then your fingers will move. Yeah. It doesn't really work if your eyes don't. So
yeah. What Flynn mentioned that one time in class about like having a line and then like starting with a bunch of points to look at in the line, or like got like markers, I guess, and then like taking stuff away. I've used that in class, and that seems to help a lot. I don't know if you remember that, but like say if it's like a Kong precision dive Kong out, right? You would like, your eyes would like look at the ledge, and then you would look at the landing, and then look at the other wall or whatever, and then like having like like more of an emphasis on like movement 1, cool, movement 2, land, movement 3, look, and then go. I was super happy that Flynn mentioned to try and do that, because like in terms of like, I guess for flow, right, for teaching flow, to possibly like remove steps in a line or to like make it flowier, is like taking out points that you would look at, or like unnecessary head movement, right? I guess because that will like throw off. You'll have like a wobbly line if the head's like all over the place.
Yeah, for people listening, if you try and stand on one leg whilst you're listening to this, and then, you know, move your head round and round in circles, like I'm doing it now, and it's actually really quite hard.
It's very hard.
You need to be quite stable with the head. The head is quite heavy, I've noticed. I'm noticing more how heavy my head is, just in terms of, directing my body.
Yeah. The older I get, I just feel it in my neck. I'm like, oh, I hate it when my neck's sore. It's like, I don't want to feel like this.
And you've had a few injuries, haven't you? So I read up that you had a back injury. How long ago was that, and what sort of back injury did you have?
So it's been 2 years, maybe. 2 years. Let's guess 2 years. Yeah, I don't know. I was doing like a Webster up onto concrete, and I like opened up, and I like if this is the concrete, I under rotated and like flat foot landed, and then I felt like my butt and then like my back kind of just like fell. So not like a good feeling to obviously land that way on concrete. And then after that, I don't know, like some muscles, I guess, in my back felt like they were just locked up. And then it's just like gotten, well, it depends. Like it got much more sore, or it was a lot more sore, let's say like 6 months ago. And I've focused more on trying to get it stronger through like just doing yoga more consistently, and in like getting it checked out and finding more exercises to strengthen it. So it's stronger now, but essentially it just feels like I can't train for as long as I want to, and I can't push myself as hard because I feel if I physically overdo it and I feel incredibly sore the next day, I don't want to feel bad for training hard the day before, and not feel good moving around the next day. It's that type of it right now. It currently kind of feels that way, so I do have to be mindful of like how hard I have to push myself when I train, which you could definitely say has like prompted the shift of like how, like, what are my athletic training goals, right? How hard do I like to push myself to have fun, and like when do I need to and want to push myself. So that's the current relationship with the back. It definitely feels stronger, and I'm gonna keep doing what I've been doing and going to go get it more checked out by a PT. But so that's you could say that's like my second injury. The first injury I had was I had like a minor tear in my meniscus, and that was, I don't know how many years ago, like 6 years ago maybe. And it was a minor tear that I didn't really notice, and I was just like living with it for a month because I was like, I'm not injured, I'm fine, even though like I would train for one day and then my knee would be sore for a week, and then I would train again and then it would be sore for a week, and then I was like, something's wrong. Knees are great now. Actually, I would say they're like the strongest part of me, which is good. The back is the one that I'm working back to get strong. I definitely feel that it is because, like I mentioned, when I started parkour into college, I was right out of high school, like kind of physically in a good condition to like take on the sport, and like I feel like my conditioning over the years has definitely like gone down in the sense of matching the recovery needed of the stress that I was like doing from training, you could say, right? Like there's a level of recovery that needs to be done to like balance out what I'm asking of my body to do. And I feel like that's definitely like gone down somewhat over the years, and I think that has contributed to like why maybe I don't feel as strong as I did like a few years ago. So now I'm just trying to push that back up. Yeah, because like nice. Because it was like the podcast that you had with Eddie was the last
Eddie
one.
Ingram, yeah.
Like you guys were mentioning, just like wanting to obviously to train. Like I want to train when I'm 60. I want to train. I want to have fun. I want to be able to move when I'm like hopefully 80. But we'll see. And like I want to do this for a long time. And like when my back started to hurt, like I didn't want to regret doing parkour, right? Because like it gave me so much. Like I have to. I mean, it's weird to say that I have to, but like like I want my body to feel good so that I don't feel bad for, using it how I want to or expressing myself with it how I want to. So those are the two big ones, my knee, and then my back that I'm currently just managing, working with, trying to understand.
Yeah, trying to understand. I think that's a valid sentiment. Yeah. And do you get many injuries in your classes?
No, not very many. Not very many. I would say like I don't push. Yeah, I mean, not very many. I don't tend to push. I don't tell people, I guess, training outside, right? I don't want to like push someone. Like I want them to push themselves, and then me to just like give them a little extra nudge, right? I don't want to that's like what I want my coaching style, I guess, to be, is like them to be able to motivate themselves to want to do like a scary challenge, and then me just nudging enough so that they can believe themselves and not totally relying on like me to, I don't know, get them there, or like a heavy spot or whatever. I don't know.
And how do you envision that pathway then? How do you take students away from needing too much support and too much help?
That's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's hard. So at the gym we worked at, or at the gym at the gym I worked at, we spotted pretty heavy there, which was just like I guess like maybe something you would want to do maybe normally in a gym, just to ensure like as much safety. But I feel that it is, I like the idea of, like not automatically, I guess, like assuming they need a spot, and like showing them what it's like with or without a spot, and then like having them ask me, I guess, like what I want to start enforcing, or like not enforcing, but like a habit I want to start building is like, just like if someone asks for a spot, they get it, or I'm like, no, I don't want to spot you on this, and then they just like, and then it's up to them, I guess, to maybe to do it or not, if they feel that they can do it without me there, or if I feel like they don't need it. Yeah, I guess that's how I see that being implemented as best.
It's tricky because I'm asking you quite a general question, but for every individual that you teach, you have to cater for their needs and their experiences. So 100%. It's difficult to answer that. Have a kind of hard and fast rule for everyone, like how to move students along that pathway. I think something that I've noticed is children will start to ask you more if they can I do it? Mm-hmm. As in, once they start to progress and get a sense of that they can do a few things, I've had occasions where they say, Sam, can I do this? Do you think I can do this? And that's always a really interesting point, because I have a pretty strong sense, probably, whether they can or can't. Yep. But I have to be in line with the moment, if they... Go ahead.
It's like, I feel like you almost don't want to over-influence their confidence by saying, dude, you definitely got it, right? And then them like being overconfident and then like messing up. So like I find myself like also watching my response whenever like a student of mine asks like, can I do this? I'm like, you totally can do it, as long as the bounce back feels confident, as long as like what you're doing. Are you going to go for the overshoot? Are you going to go for the undershoot? And then I try and like ask them a bunch more questions so that they can start thinking inside their brains, because I don't want to like over instill confidence. I want to reinforce like confidence that they already have. Right.
What's really nice is I spoke about this with Georgia Monroe. What's really nice is I see this moment with kids when they say, for example, like a standing pre going downwards, and they'll kind of be like, they're not sure, and they ask me, Sam, do you think I can do it? And I say, maybe I say, well, jump into the gap and see how it feels. Just jump into the gap safely, land safely, see how it feels. And they do it, and within a split second, they're like, okay, I understand now. It's like gaining a bit more information, because they have to get used to the process of gauging distance and understanding their own capacity to execute in a movement. So it's really nice when I don't have to tell them, you can do it, because they realize they have that point of reference,
Yeah.
But yeah, and also, we haven't even asked you, like, who do you mainly teach, and what sort of setting do you teach in? Do you teach in a gym? Do you teach like outdoors? Like what's the situation?
I've got a few families that I work with that some I know from the gym, some I just met outside. And then I've got a small space that I teach at on Wednesdays. It's indoors. It's called YMS, your movement sanctuary. It's like a yoga and parkour studio. And like I said, it's a small space. It's not like the last space I worked at. I don't know if you ever like saw some videos of it, but it was like 11,000 square feet, I think, 30,000 square feet. So like lots of bars, just spring floor, tons of mats. It was like, it was a dream. And this space is much smaller, but I make do with what I have. I get creative with what I have.
And how is the process of getting classes in that? So for people listening who maybe are just starting with coaching and don't really know how to get to a place, to teach, talk us through your process of contacting YMS Philly and how that worked.
Yeah, so I mean the manager there, I know she used to work at the other gym that did shut down. So that's how she knew me. She knows that like she likes the way that I teach. So that's how I started working. That's how I started working there. Yeah, and then before like PPK Philly, which is the gym I used to work at, there was where I first started coaching. Was a gym called High Exposure, Parkour, Rock Climbing, Ninja Warrior Adventure,
Wow.
something. Yeah, it was definitely a mouthful of a name. And it had like a tiny parkour room, and then like a huge rock climbing section. And that's where I started. That's where I learned how to coach. I like found them because I saw like a photo on Instagram, and then I was like, and at that time I was wanted to teach. And that was like the first opportunity I saw. I messaged the owner. She was looking for someone to teach parkour. At the time it seemed like I had enough skill to teach it, which was cool. So that's why she was like, "You're gonna teach. You can teach it." Yeah, and then luckily I had the other instructor that was with me. That was like the head instructor. His name is Eric Rossi. He was the one. He was the one. Yeah, shout out Eric Rossi. He was the first one that kind of got me into teaching, and like just kind of gave me like some formats on how to like write the class, and how to go about like presenting stuff to the class. Yeah, that's how I started. I had one moment where it was like, this is why I coach parkour, and it was like there was one line where like I remember a kid was working through, and like he hit his knee. He was really upset. He was like started to cry, and like he was like frustrated. I was there for him, told him, hey, it's okay, like he's gonna heal, and like just reassured him of like his own strength, his own ability to like move confidently, and it was one of those moments where like the minute he started to move, you like felt the confidence in his movement and like the control and the focus, and like it was like 100% focus with each move. He went up the parkour section and then back down, and like when he finished, like he felt great, and it was like, I don't know, it was one of those like it was a validating experience for me to be like, cool, like I felt like I did a great job as a coach. Like I boosted this kid's confidence, like however many points, and hopefully he uses those points later on for something else or whatever.
Nice.
So
it's a nice moment. Yeah.
Those are good moments.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago I had a kid who was very emotional. And I don't really like the word emotional. It's very vague, but by emotional I mean would get very upset very easily. Probably the most easily I've ever experienced with a child.
How old was it? Like a kid, toddler?
He was about 11.
Okay, a kid.
So he would be in tears like almost every session, and sometimes multiple times within a session. And it was a really interesting one because he wasn't bad at parkour. Like he was good and he put some effort in. But as a coach, it was a really difficult one to deal with because it was constant. Like it was every session.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen is that something wouldn't quite go right for him. He'd get upset and then he'd hurt himself. And then he'd, eventually settle down, come back in and hurt himself again.
Just like trying the challenge.
Yeah, and I definitely stand fast by the idea that if you've already injured yourself, the likelihood of you injuring yourself again goes up five times, and this is what happened with him, and it was really tricky to try and
Stop
navigate.
Yeah, I had a kid also that I coached that at first the first 2 attempts he doesn't want to do them, and he gets kind of frustrated, and the third one he wants to keep doing it, and he gets better, and then just spams it 7 more times, and then gets better, and then he messes up, and then he gets kind of like you're saying, gets sad at himself. And it's what do? Do you stand in front of the kid and tell him to stop trying the thing? You're no, stop, no more, we're gonna do something else now. It's I don't know, as a coach I guess you do, right? If in my case, if the kid keeps doing the line again and again, I gotta be stop, we're going doing something else.
Yeah. And this kid, the highs and lows were so massive. Mm-hmm. He would be elated if he did something quite well, but because he then set such high expectations, anything other or below that, he would get upset. Yeah. And it was so interesting. It was so interesting, and I'm sure there's a lot of kind of psychology in there with maybe his upbringing or why he's like that. But I talked to his parents and we tried to talk it through, and it was eventually he left. It wasn't for him, and he was becoming in danger of really hurting himself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just one of those things. You can't help everyone, and we really tried. We thought this is a perfect place for him to gain confidence and to sort of be able to get over this, maybe. But then maybe that's naive thinking. Maybe it's way deeper than we realize. Yeah,
I mean, it totally could. It's there's a potential in parkour to gain confidence, but it's totally up to you, whoever's doing it, to do it safe enough to keep doing it.
Speaking of confidence, I saw that you taught some kids some bounce back technique. So I was looking through your archives of Instagram and stuff, and saw you outdoors teaching kids how to bounce off. And for people who don't know what that means, it's basically undershooting a jump so that your feet safely land on the wall that you're trying to jump to, but then come off backwards, and you're safe, and you've come away from the jump unharmed. Did you see the clip of that guy? I think he's from Portugal. I'll have to maybe quickly check now. Do this insane bounce off, the most insane bounce off I've ever seen. It's a big running pre. He lands and then he takes this huge drop. Did you see it? I
feel like I know which clip you're talking about. Yeah.
Did you? It's red walls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You caught it?
It's a big bounce back. It's a medium one.
It's huge. And what I found incredible was the way because usually bounce back, you kind of you bounce back in the direction that you're facing to the floor, but because it's so high, he takes all the impacts in both feet, bounces back, manages to do a half turn in the air, and then land. And it was just, oh man, it blew me away. I thought it was incredible. But also I've been sending that to my students, being like, look, this is why.
No cranes, just bounce backs. So personally, I don't know how you feel, but this as like a coaching, not a coaching standard. I say coaching standard, but to me, like, I almost like don't mention like a split foot landing or crane landing like on the wall at all. I like kind of only want my students to rely on just like a bounce back, and just like know that at times, I guess, if your feet do like split, then like that happens, but like it should always, and I say always, but most of the time, keep your feet together, because that's, as long as you're in control, like you hit the corner and then you push yourself off, and then you are much more safer than like if your feet split. I don't know how you feel about, or how you teach as well, but that's like how I go, and I got that from, I would say, the PPK, because that's how we taught over there, and yeah.
I would say I'm in the majority now of people who think that cranes are probably more likely to be dangerous than a bounce off. So generally, I'm the same as you. I mean, I don't really teach cranes anymore. I used to love doing cranes when I first started doing parkour, because I couldn't make jumps, you know, so I'd get one foot on. But I have had a couple of scissors experiences, and they're not too fun. Mm-mm. I'd say one of the only exceptions actually where I saw a really nice execution of a crane was by Matthias Meyer, who he does a crane because there's a huge death drop on the other side. So he does like a standing pre, and he goes from crane then into the descent. Mm-hmm. So he goes like in a crane position and then turns his body, so he's then over the drop and then starts doing the descent. And I thought, do you know what? That's probably a good idea.
Good idea.
Because with your crane, you've got your hands much lower as well. Mm-hmm. You're in loads of control. Yeah. Whereas with 2 feet, you often tend to be a bit more upright.
Yeah. Yeah. When dealing with height, I would agree that cranes are important if you feel like your life is going to be saved from doing a crane. Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Go for it.
We won't even get into Sketchy Andy, because that guy took cranes to
a whole new level,
to a new universe. Yeah. And so one thing I am interested for you to reiterate, really, because I've heard you talk about it before, is your project that you've done with Flynn's online exploration group. Fuck you, Flynn. I keep mentioning you in every single episode. It's getting very annoying now. But yeah, tell us about your first project, because it was titled "Mapping the Coaching Experience." So yeah, take us through your thoughts on that. Take us through your presentation, essentially.
Yeah. So Flynn posed the question of like, what would your younger self like to have that your future self could like send back, or some question like that. And essentially what I thought of was this map that I made that helps like put like a bubble, or like give the coaching session that you're going to do, that you can plan for, that it can maybe give someone a little bit more space. In this case, give myself a little bit more space to like identify where during the coaching session I am, in terms of like, you know, warm-ups done, like cool, we're gonna introduce like the first technique, cool, like how engaged are they in the session, like do I change it up and like, you know, run a different exercise, and yeah, so I wanted to make like a map, or a map, and it came from a book that I read called Consciousness Medicine, and in that book they kind of talk about what it was like to be a guide, or like a shaman to people who are taking like you could say if it's like a psychedelic journey, or if it's like a meditation retreat, or anything that like someone can kind of be there for you to like guide you through, like how can you properly do that for someone, how can you safely do that with someone. And this book maps out like a model, where it's like preparation, journey, integration, and there are like three values baked into that, which would be creativity, love, and
Wisdom.
Wisdom. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, and it's those three that need to be baked into like the preparation of the journey, baked into the actual journey itself, like what you got planned or what the guide has planned, and then the integration piece as well, like making it relevant to something tangible in your life, right? Or like more homework after, like still kind of thinking about it. And I thought that this mapped onto parkour wonderfully in terms of like coaching someone or me going through a session. Obviously, like you want the student to warm up as much as possible and prepare them for what moves you're going to teach them, what experience you want to set up for them, and then just like monitoring their experience and making sure it's as them as it can be, and like not kind of like you want as much of an influence of yourself as maybe they need, I guess. Like you don't want to tell them that like, I don't know, like you want to give them the tools, like I guess like you said, and then like watch them play with it versus like trying to make them move like how I move, if that makes sense, right? During the journey. That's kind of like what you're monitoring. And then for integration, it's like, how can you make the movement or the feelings you felt or you experienced doing this scary challenge, like how can you use that somewhere else, right? And I feel like that's important, at least for parkour. I feel that I don't know, like, and I don't know if it's 100% like true, but like say if someone does parkour, right, and they're awesome at it and they can push themselves super hard, right, but they don't really push themselves anywhere else in life other than parkour, I feel like they're gonna burn out doing parkour, right, possibly, or they're just gonna like not have like they're gonna burn out, their like creativity is gonna run out or something, and it's like there's a healthy balance that needs to be fed in everything else to then like feed a healthy parkour habit, you know, if that like I feel like that obviously makes sense. Like the confidence you would, like for example, like if a kid was able to like take a good breath before doing a scary running pre because he wanted to do it and then nailed it, right, that same technique, if he wanted to, could then be applied to like a scary conversation or a difficult conversation he's going to have with somebody at home, to his mom, someone, right? That's kind of what I want to get at in terms of like integration, and like use it for anything else and like feed these other things so that then you can keep pushing yourself and feel good about pushing yourself in parkour, because it's like I'm using what I've learned and that makes me feel good, and then that makes my movement feel much better.
I remember a friend of mine saying that he would rather try and double Kong IMAX than speak to a certain girl that he liked at the time. He would rather go for that and sort of risk injury in his life than simply go up to a girl and ask, how are you doing? I like you, that sort of thing. It's just hilarious, isn't it?
Conversations are scary. Some conversations are like super difficult, and like you don't even know you're avoiding it. But then when you catch yourself avoiding it and you have to go to it, you're like, oh fuck. You're like, here I go. All right, breathe. Like,
it's
3, 2, 1, go.
I might try that actually. I might do I might try and think of it as me about to do a running precision jump.
It's great. It works.
I've never actually. Go on. Sorry.
It works in as much as like you're able to, like the same way, like for running pre, like once you commit to the takeoff, right? There's like more to the takeoff. There's air time, and you got to be like calm in the air as you're doing it. same way, like when you're doing a hard conversation, you got to be, or know how to keep yourself calm enough during it to like execute it well. So it's like that kind of same, I know it could be that same mentality if someone really like thinks about it as I have.
And in a similar way, when you take off from a running pre, you have to deal with the consequence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a difficult conversation or ask a difficult question, you've already made that jump, literally. Yep. Like as in, because they know straight away. They know something's different. Like if you say to someone, "Look, can we sit down? I need to talk to you about something." It's like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it's literally I've thought of it as like committing to what are the exact words I need to say right now to initiate this conversation. And it's like, all right, cool. Can I ask you a question? Like, can we go for something like that? And it's like, go. Like, what are the words? Say them, get them out, and like you've sent the words. You've sent the like you're sending the conversation.
You're sending it. Yeah. I almost. It's funny. I wish I could see if there was cameras everywhere and could replay bits of my life. Like, it'd be hilarious watching me kind of, because I've been in some situations where I literally feel, and if people are watching this, like the words are here. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of pointing to my chest, and I just need to get them. It's like it's a foot away. You know, it's not even that far away. I just need to get them out into my mouth and then get them into reality, and it's really tough. Like it's surprising how tough it is to say certain things.
And I think that's why like it's super important to just like dial in on like what are the exact words I need to say right now to start it, and then just go. I think it's the same way with like sending a jump. It's like what are the exact steps I need to take to like properly send it? What do I need to like focus in on to like get this going or whatever?
Yeah. It's amazing to me that when I'm in a coaching situation, I feel very dominant. I feel very assertive because I'm running the show. Like I'm doing the class, and they are generally a lot younger than me. But then if I try and challenge my friends, or even worse, my housemates, like that's tough. That's tough. It's very different to give off an air of assertiveness with friends and people if you're with a partner and stuff like that, because it changes the vibe like straight away. It changes the mood. Whereas when you're in a class, they expect you both parties expect that. Yeah. The sort of roles of the class, So yeah, it's a it can be a struggle for me just to say like, bro, you need to do the dishes, But it's just it's me being silly. But I really like this idea in your project about the shaman and the guide. It'd be nice to read that book and understand that a bit more. Yeah,
it's a good book. Yeah, I'm gonna reread it like as soon as I get a chance. But I think it's super important. I think people who get into being a parkour coach need to like know what they're going to be putting people through and like why they're doing it, and just to take on the responsibility of like, cool, I'm gonna walk this person through this experience, and like the goal is for them to, I don't know, like be more creative for like 5 minutes, or to like connect two moves fluently, something like that, right? And taking into account like their physical safety, because like you are telling someone potentially to do something risky and like they could get hurt for it, and it's like you got to know that, right? Make sure that you're aware of that, and just like move forward. I feel like a lot of people, and like I don't know, at least around here, I feel that they're like, it's tough to see a strong. No, I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, like just know the responsibility you're taking on as a coach, and then I don't know, like mindfully steer them where they might want to go, right? Like you're helping them explore, right? You're not like, I'm not here to make every single kid I teach awesome at swinging or like the best person to do a Kong. Like I want to make whatever they're curious in, like I want to teach them that. And I just want to help like discover that. And yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
It's, I guess something we have to think about as coaches is that most of us weren't coached, and we can try as best as we want to understand how it feels to be in a parkour class, but most of us haven't been in parkour classes. Like I've been to a few parkour classes in 13 years of training.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm really trying to understand is like, what would my class actually feel like? What does it feel like to be asked to do this? How does it feel to be worked in a certain way for 10 minutes, like doing conditioning or whatever?
Yeah.
How does it feel to be with your friends who you've been at school with for the whole day and then suddenly be doing something that you've never done before and could injure yourself? How does, and your coach is saying, yeah, you can do it. Like, how does that feel? I think we need to ask ourselves these questions as coaches, because we are new to classes.
I know I've only had two actually. So this was the first person that introduced me to coaching, which was Eric Rossi, and then the second person, which was Andy, who worked at PPK. So
Shout out Andy.
Shout out Andy. So I've had two. Did you start coaching parkour on your own, like from without anyone like assisting you, or like how did your coaching like come about?
Well, actually, I started coaching when I was at university, so I kind of set up an unofficial parkour society.
Nice.
And I kind of essentially coached for free random students who wanted to do it. And it was, at the time, I was adamant in my head that I didn't want to make it an official society, because then they'd bring in kind of rules and stuff. But I was very, what's the word? Very narrow-minded with that. I think it would have been great if I'd have made it an official society. It might still be going now.
Yeah.
If I'd have actually, sorry, go on.
Fun fact, when I started parkour when I was 18, me and my friend were so invested in it, we wanted to start a club at our school. We never got the club going. We just like fell in love with parkour and did that. But continue. I just wanted to fun fact.
But yeah, I think I was very narrow-minded, because I kind of thought that I didn't want non-parkour people to be in any way in control of parkour. And that was, in some ways it was because I was basically the only one. I'd gone to university in Kiel, which was far away from my hometown, and I was the only one of my friends that went. I didn't know anyone when I went to university, and I was one of the only people in the whole area that did parkour. So it did kind of feel like my thing, but at the same time, I would encourage people who are listening, if you are a student or along those lines, just bite the bullet, try and do it, try and make it an official thing, because we need people to take parkour seriously if they want to learn it. So I'm not sure how I got there, but yeah.
So I guess my question was, so then has anyone ever coached you? Like, have you ever felt like you were
see. Has anyone ever coached me? I mean, so many people have guided and helped me, and God bless all of them. Like, Jesus, I wouldn't, I don't know where I'd be. I don't know what sort of movement I'd be doing now if I hadn't had so much guidance from friends and from all over. But I wouldn't say I've ever been formally coached.
I asked that because like when when I learned how to coach from Eric, it was you could say more similar to like how I coach now, where it's very like, you know, like I'm not going to push you super hard because I only want you to push yourself as much as you want to be pushed, right? I'm not going to like push you more than I think you need to be pushed, I guess. I don't know if that made sense, but when I first met Andy, it was like he was a very aggressive and assertive coach, and in the way that like it was good in some ways where it did like make me believe that I could do more, and yeah, it was like it was a very weird experience because like I never saw anyone like push someone hard in parkour because like there's that risk involved of like the person getting hurt, right? So it's like here was this like overconfidence and like I'm gonna push you because I know you can do this thing, and it was like yeah, it was a good additional piece, I guess, to like how I coach now, because at PPK I would say that was like the style of it, whereas like we did push people relatively hard, but at least like, you know, the coaches that knew how to do it, in this case like, you know, Andy, who was, you know, relatively experienced, and then kind of taught us how to do it. But that is like something I feel like I don't see, which is weird, like coaches teaching other coaches to like push people more, where it's but yeah.
What would your advice be to coaches?
Why do you want to coach someone is a good question to ask you, or to ask themselves. And if it is like in my case to just help other people, to give someone an opportunity to like be heard and then listen to them and then like have them listen to you, that's a really powerful like transfer of like knowledge or skill that you could do right there if that person's like listening to you and you're really listening to them, and if you really know what you're doing in terms of knowledge of coaching. So like in my case, if that's kind of why you like to do it, then like ask yourself why. Yeah, ask yourself why you want to do it. That's to segue into like the second project that I'm doing. It's the letter to myself that about like why I enjoy parkour, what brought me to parkour, why consciously making myself scared or making myself feel scared in a challenge or a situation and working through it, like why do I feel that has helped me in doing what I want to do now, and then also, yeah, just to make sure that I can teach the people that I choose to teach as effectively as I can, and as safely as I can, and just to give them the best tools to have the best parkour experience they can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what format is? So you say this next project's going to be in a letter format.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
It's I'm thinking it's like multiple questions, not just one. Like, you know,
Okay.
It's like going to start off like, you know, why, like dear myself, dear Patrick, like why did you fall in love with parkour as much as you did at the time? And it's like, you know, I could, from there, it's like it helped me feel like I had some sense of control in my life, because at the time I didn't feel like I did, because of the choices that I was making I felt like weren't mine, and parkour really helped me like kind of like just shoot out of that that situation, and like made me confident to like express myself, or you could say publicly, because I was one of those people that like because you know some people just refuse to train outside by themselves. I wouldn't care. I still do, and it's like I gladly do that, because I definitely think it helps build confidence in like owning your space that you're, or like feeling confident in a space that you might not normally be at. I think you showed this wonderfully in the last YouTube video you made, where like right at the end of, I think it's like your 20, I don't know how many year video, that you put out.
27 years, yeah.
27 years. Right at the end, there's you training in that like really dark alleyway with the light, and you're just like doing challenge after challenge, and like that ability to like make that like kind of safe, fun like bubble for yourself, I think is like a cool, like empowering experience, because it helps like you claim or potentially claim your your space like in any like public situation potentially, and parkour definitely helped me do that, and yeah, like that would be one of the questions in this letter. If I'm going to go back to the letter, and then I what I touched on with like using like integrating the tools that you learned from parkour to other things, right? And that's how like you kind of keep fueling the habit of parkour. It's like if you want to keep doing it, like you have to do the work everywhere else, right? And kind of properly balance everything, and yeah, just like kind of digging into there, because I just want to keep getting more and more clear on how I can teach people effectively. Yeah, that's like the main purpose of it, because like I want the reasons that I did it to be potential reasons for these other kids, these other adults that I teach it to, right? Not the reasons, right? But like here's what I have to offer in terms of like value and experience that I have, and it's like let's work here. Like where do you want to go? Yeah,
it's almost like stepping back in time a little bit and empathizing with them. As a younger, as younger people, and who are just starting their journey. Nice, man, really nice. And so, what format will this be in? Where can people find it when it's done? Will it be shared?
I want it to be. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do like a giant 1-page, 2-page, like just go at it, like write a letter to myself, and then like refine it down to like a page or a half. Maybe a half page might be small, but like a page. And I want the letter, whenever when I do write it, obviously it's like a personal letter to me, but I also want anyone who has had similar experiences in parkour to also read it and then like hear themselves in it also, and then. Either do the same thing themselves or like kind of start to ask themselves the same question in their head, like why am I doing this? If they haven't asked it in a long time, ask it again. Hey, why am I doing this? It's been 20 years. Why am I still doing this?
Yeah, we've gone all the way round to questions again. How we started. Yeah,
gotta love those questions.
Yeah, they do help guide your life, I think. Questions. You don't have to always you don't always have to have the answers, but the questions themselves are just very, very helpful. Yeah.
What's your definition of a great good parkour coach? Great parkour coach.
I thought you were going to ask me what's the definition of parkour then. I know
could be here forever if we did that.
Callum Powell apparently wrote a 4,500 word essay today on April the 1st.
Nice.
So you guys should go and check that out.
I saw a story post the other day, and I agree that the Wikipedia definition is not the correct definition of parkour, and it needs to be changed. I agree. It's very outdated. I feel like it's like there could be more, or like it could be changed around, but I feel it's a bit outdated for sure.
Interesting one, isn't it? We're still having all these debates. We're trying to figure out what we're doing and what it's called, and we still can't really do it. But it's an interesting process. It's still young, But anyway, back to your question. What represents a
great parkour coach?
A great parkour coach. Yeah. In some ways, I think time will tell, really, because we've not been doing this for very long. We've not been coaching it for very long.
How long have you been coaching for?
Well, if I mentioned that I started coaching at uni, then it's been about 8 years now. Yeah, which is crazy. Think about it. Yeah. I think time will tell who are the sort of coaching greats, but slightly frustratingly, I think some of the best coaches in the world are very behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I say frustratingly because I want to question why. I think there is definitely a space for humility and not having to show off about your craft or what you do, but I sometimes feel there's a missed opportunity because it's so esoteric at the moment. We need to try and expand our knowledge of what parkour is and expand our audience of who might want to get into it. And I just feel like there's been some amazing coaching. More than likely, there's been some amazing coaches around the world, and they've just kind of been silent. And I know they're doing their own thing, and they're probably doing a great job, and they're affecting people on a very individual basis, and that's great. That is, that's more than enough. But I just think that with the powers we have, like so easily with our phones and with social media, I'm just starting to go the other way now. I'm like, I want to get it all out there, like I want to show off all the stuff that I'm doing. I want to show off all the ideas that I'm thinking about and experimenting with parkour, because why not share the treasure, and help other people try and understand this craft and understand how to teach it well. I really like people like Ryan Ford, and putting out, like, I think he put out like 500 clips in the last year or something.
Yeah,
like that's great, man. Why like that's great, and shout out to him, because he's not only just done that, he's been doing it since like 20. I don't even know. I've been following that guy for ages. I've been trying to get either him or Tyler Carpenter, is it? Who I think is his partner,
Lynn?
or
I think it's maybe
Lynn.
Lynn.
Sorry,
Lynn.
not Tyler. Sorry, yeah,
Yep.
I get confused. I've been trying to get them on somehow. I think they're pretty busy, but it'd be really nice to speak to them as well. But yeah, I think maybe a great coach, in my mind now, represents someone that's going on a quest to kind of start sharing this treasure now.
Yeah.
I think it's young enough that we have so much to learn, but it's old enough that we have so much value to give.
I know there's like at least 1 to 2 maybe like coaching jams or like conventions or whatever that used to happen in London. I forget the name. I unfortunately never went to any of them, but I do but when they all got shut down because of like the pandemic and stuff, I was planning on like starting to go to them because like I do want to connect more with, I think like all of the coaches connecting more is super valuable. You look frozen on my screen.
You too.
Cool.
There you go. Yeah, is there any coaching conventions in America then?
There might be one in Boston that happens yearly with Parkour Generations. Okay. I think I might be right on that.
Yeah.
Hopefully that starts back up again, because I would like to make it out to that one, and then like the London one. I think there might be one in London that happens relatively yearly as well. Yeah.
Shout out to Parkour Gen, because I think they were one of the first coaching companies that actually went out to America and started to do big events. I think they're one of the only ones actually. Which is admirable, because I remember seeing some of the videos of I think it was the Boston one. There's like loads of people out, and they're doing like a full day of it, and it looks awesome. It looks great. So yeah, man. Well, okay. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I hope to formally meet you in person at hopefully at one of these events, or just train together in general once we can all move about the world freely.
It will happen, man. It will happen. And yeah, I've definitely found a lot of your insight in this chat and in the group very valuable. So keeping on. Thank you, man.
Thank you, sir.
And yeah, thank you for coming on. If you enjoyed this podcast, guys, then if you're watching on YouTube, you can like and subscribe and all that jazz. If you're listening on Spotify, you can click follow and you will be notified of the next ones. I'm like 80-90% sure that I've got a really special episode for episode 30, which is coming up very soon. So I'm very excited about that. Pat, thank you so much.
Sam, thank you for having me.
And if you are interested in Pat's stuff, then I'll put all the links in the description. You can go find him there, go and check him out, go and follow him, all that jazz. It's the right thing to do. He's doing good work, and more power to you, man. So till next time, thank you for listening, everyone, and thank you, Pat. Damn it, I forgot about the questions.
Can't leave Sarah and Daniel hanging.
We definitely can't do that. Let me just triple check we are recording properly. So the first one comes from Daniels.project, and he says, "I love you, Patrick."
Daniel, thank you. I love you too.
That's it. The next one. I have three from Sarah Moa. Actually, I've never pronounced her second name.
I think it's more.
I'm going to edit that for sure. Sarah Moore. Yeah. Okay, next couple from Sarah. The first one. What's your favorite ice cream, Pat?
That's a tough one. It's either there's like birthday cake flavor that I usually enjoy, or just good old cookies and cream ice cream.
Nice. Yep. Birthday cake. That sounds good. I've never actually had that.
Cake's a good one. It's good.
Cool. Next one from her. Sarah says, which body parts make you a better human being? Such an easy question from Sarah.
I want to say my hands because I use my hands a lot for just like parkour and juggling, but like I think it's my mouth to just like speak and then to like say things confidently and just like to hear myself back. So I'm gonna say my mouth.
Perfect. I'm gonna say my ass. I can't say this seriously now. Okay, thanks, Sarah. That's a good answer actually. That makes you a better human being. The third one is Sarah says, would you invite Sam and Sarah and Daniel for holidays? Okay, I stop. Hi.
I would absolutely invite them over for holidays. I would go and visit for the holidays if I could. I'd love to go and visit over there and meet you guys. And hopefully we will all get to do that soon. And we can all train and have fun and
and party.
Yep. I can't wait.
Yeah. So thank you, Sarah, for those questions. Oh man. Great. Okay, well, we'll end it there. Thank you for the second time.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it.
Cool. See you later, Pat. Thank you.
Yeah, take it easy.